Attend the tale of Tony Todd, subject today of this our pod. He starred in films about candy men, he played Reverend Zombie and voiced the Fallen. He's in the classic Monster Squad, is Tony Todd. 2 months of Halloween starts now.
We watched Minotaur today on Nothing Spookies.
Moo!
Oh God, do we want to do this again?
Hello, however you wish to self-identify, and welcome back to Nothing Spookies!
Sup, witches?
Where we ask the question, the fright is this?
Damn right.
It's the podcast where we go through an actor's filmography and choose the most ghoulish and terrifying movies that they've made, and decide whether or not they've got a certain something, or if they're the spawn of Satan! What if I did that the entire podcast?
Oh, are people still listening at this point?
That I just...
They just tune out in the first minute.
Like, I just talk, like, normally, and then, like, every 20 minutes or so, I'm just all like, but what if there was a spooky ghost?
Well, that's pretty much your whole shtick,
That
anyways.
is pretty much my entire shtick,
Yeah.
so it's not all that different, but now I'm just adding...
You go full theater kid, and then you're brought back down
I'm never
to my
not
level.
theater kid. I'm on theater kid all the time.
Okay.
I can't turn it off. It's impossible. Someone show me. I want you to show me. I'm Kaz Lesgard.
You turn it off when you're in the grave. And I'm Jameson Rafter.
Hey, you know what's scary? The grave.
The grave!
Ooh, grave! And yes, it's late August, which can only mean one thing.
It's time to get cracking on Halloween episodes.
It's time for 2 months of Halloween Spooktacular Nothing
Damn right.
Spookies!
Damn
because, it's our yearly fight against the people who start putting Christmas decorations up in October. And so we're trying to balance the scales.
Yeah.
And we're doing so, and by the time this episode's out, I'm gonna have my bats up.
Yep.
I'm gonna have my plastic skeleton. We'll have a place on the wall. I'll have a couple of big gravestones outside that say "Beware" and "Keep out." Although, to be fair, that actually doesn't have anything.
Have those all the
doesn't
time.
have anything to do with Halloween.
Yeah.
That's like a separate thing. But
it's all has to do with you being a shut-in. Yeah, and by the time this is out, I'll probably know what I'm going to be for Halloween this year.
I need to figure that out. I'm so behind on that.
It's getting harder and harder to decide of that as I get older. Like, what can I like convincingly pull off?
Every year, I always do like a Google image search, and it's always something along the lines of big, fat, bearded Halloween costumes, because I'm just all like, what can I do with like the least effort possible?
Yeah.
While also not exercising or shaving.
Usually, like, around May, I have an idea of what I want to do for Halloween, and then I have to decide if I'm going to get a summer haircut or not.
Right.
You know, if I'm going to have a really long, natural, long hair for this costume.
If you're doing a Snake Plissken or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Exactly.
I have gone as Jack Burton one year before, and I had to resort to using a wig. What could have been.
Yes, much like last year when we talked about the career of legendary boogeyman Robert Englund. This year, we're kicking things off by turning the magnifying glass onto another classic boogeyman actor. It's Tony Todd, and we're looking at his 2006 film Minotaur.
We're
getting positively medieval here. Actually, that's not even right, because this is like Greek mythology. There's nothing medieval about it either. I definitely prepared for this episode.
You're off to a great start, Kaz.
We're off to an amazing start.
Don't stop now.
But yes, Tony Todd, we wanted to talk about another person whose career is definitely tied to the horror world.
Yep.
Tony Todd has multiple franchises, and much like many of the people who find themselves in part of the horror community, there is just a bevy of nothing movies for us to choose from. He practically has his own wing on Tubi.
Yeah.
You know, it's the Tony Todd wing of movies that just fundamentally do not exist.
Yeah, it's the wonderful land of Todd. A play on the words for wonderful land of Oz. Carry on, Kaz.
Yes.
Just thought I'd jump in.
Just thought I'd throw my 2 cents in there, yes. Yeah, but Tony Todd. I mean, let's get into it.
Yeah,
I thought I had more. I thought I had more of like a ramp up, but maybe I don't. Maybe we can just like go. Maybe we can go right into the filmography like 5 minutes into the episode. My God, we're gonna be out of here in no time.
That would be swell.
All right, let's see how long I can drag this out possibly here. All right, so there's not a ton of Tony Todd's personal life backstory on Wikipedia. He's somewhat of a man of mystery. He keeps his personal life rather close to his chest. I mean, perhaps There are sources on the internet where Tony Todd has gone into his personal life. Perhaps there are people who have interviewed him about what's going on, but I didn't look at those sources. I looked at Wikipedia. But Tony Todd, actor, I'm fucking firing on all fucking cylinders.
You
right
are,
now.
yeah.
Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
That Sweeney Todd intro puts you in a mood.
See? But you knew what I was referencing, though.
I've heard of Sweeney
You're
Todd.
not a musical... Yes, but I didn't say Sweeney Todd, so you didn't know. It could have been anything. It could have been like another last name Todd thing. You know me.
How many Todd musicals are there?
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
There's not very many.
Okay.
It's basically just
I shot in the dark
exactly.
and I hit the bullseye. Good
you
for
know,
me.
You know musicals.
How many fucking movies has this guy been in, Kaz?
So
Jesus.
many, like almost 200. So
Okay,
we're
yes,
not
true.
going to go through his
Yeah.
entire filmography. I'm being very judicial about what movies in this filmography I am talking about. It's mostly just the hits.
Yep.
With like a few curios peppered throughout there because, yes, he is someone who makes like 4 to 5 straight to streaming movies a year. Most of them are horror based, although not all. But I mean, he's a classically trained actor. He has done Broadway and off Broadway. He's just like a guy. Like Robert Englund. He had like a classical training in theater and Shakespeare and all that good stuff.
And he just found his footing in horror?
Because he looks like that. Because he's just a striking-looking individual. And when he talks, people listen. Because he's a commanding screen presence.
That he is, yeah.
So Tony Todd, his first film is in 1986. It's a film called Sleepwalk. It doesn't exist, but I just thought I would mention that because that's his first movie. His movie after that, though, is a little film called Platoon, which won the Oscar for Best Motion Picture of the Year in 1986. He played the role of Sergeant Warren, who, on top of being a soldier in the Vietnam War, was also a heroin addict. So he's not having a good time. All in all,
Vietnam, and on top of that, he's a heroin addict.
A bad time for Sergeant Warren. He's not having fun. Or maybe I don't know. Maybe he's in his element. You seen Platoon?
I have seen Platoon.
Kind of a bummer.
Yeah, pretty grim.
A bit of a depressing movie.
As far as war movies go, it's a bit of a downer.
Not really a lot of laughs.
It's not one of those perky, peppy kind of war movies.
They do smoke weed out of a gun barrel. They look like they're having fun with that. Unless you're addicted to heroin. 1987, he has a very small role in the Anthony Hopkins drama 84 Charing Cross Road. I thought that was kind of interesting. He's also the villain in the film Enemy Territory, which is a double act between Jan Michael Vincent and Ray Parker Jr. Of Ghostbusters.
Wow.
One of his only acting roles.
Sounds great.
Gary Frank and Jan Michael Vincent join Ray Parker Jr. in his phenomenal motion picture debut. Parker is best known for his original soundtrack and hit title song from the movie Ghostbusters. The New York Post calls Parker handsome, resourceful, and fearless in this role that proves him to be one of the hottest new talents around.
Tony Todd in that plays the villainous gang leader of a gang called The Vampires.
Okay.
And his character name is The Count.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, but I mean...
No, you gotta brand. It's about branding. It's
that's
about
true.
branding. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
He counts his vampires.
Yeah. I mean, that is absolutely the sort of thing that would be right in place in 1990 Bronx Warriors.
I'm kind of interested. Yeah, I kind of want to maybe see a little bit more of this movie. I just like to think that, like, his gang members roll into the building and Tony Todd is standing up on a landing. He just goes, one gang member. That's that joke. 1988, he plays yet another Vietnam not yet another, just another, because this is only the second time I've mentioned it, but he plays a Vietnam veteran in the Dennis Hopper directed drama Colors, which is a cop drama starring Sean Penn and Robert Duvall, and a bunch of other up-and-coming actors are peppered throughout that supporting cast. That's an early film for Don Cheadle. That's an early film for Damon Wayans. 1988, he's also in the Clint Eastwood-directed film Bird, which is about Charlie Parker, famous jazz trumpet player. Very interesting for a film called Bird. He plays a character named frog. And if you just knew that about the movie, you might think this is something about different. But no,
This isn't animated, is it?
it's about a trumpet player who loved drugs.
Okay.
Loved them so much.
All right.
1989, he's in the film Lean on Me, which is the Morgan Freeman is the principal of a failing high school movie.
Yep.
And he gets those kids' grades averages up by screaming at the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Good movie. Very
motivating. Yes, very good movie.
A very good inspirational drama. Good leading role for Morgan Freeman. Here's his big break, though. 1990. He is in the Tom Savini directed remake of Night of the Living Dead. A movie that I feel like a lot of people don't remember. But it is really solid. It's the only movie that Tom Savini ever directed. It's a really solid update of the original movie. And he's the main character. Because that's the famous thing about the original 60s George Romero.
Yeah, started an African-American.
It started one of the first independent films. One of the first films. Well, not one of the first films, but like, yes, it was notable because the lead was an African-American man. And so he plays that role. He plays Ben, a role that he won over other actors such as Ving Rhames, Lawrence Fishburne, and Eric LaSalle. That last one, however, got a little bit of revenge because later on, Eric LaSalle and Tony Todd were up for another role together that Eric LaSalle eventually got. It was for a little TV show called ER. So a little bit of, imagine that's a real sliding doors situation right there. You imagine Tony Todd being on like 7 seasons of ER. I mean, if Tony Todd was my doctor, I would fucking listen to what he said.
Do actors look at getting roles in terms of, well, I'm getting my revenge on this guy that was picked over this role over me?
As an actor, I would say, yeah, most of the industry is fueled by revenge.
Okay.
So...
What a healthy outlook.
We're all terribly well adjusted. So in 1999 to The Living Dead. Also in 1990, he has his first of a couple of appearances on Star Trek The Next Generation as Kern, who is Worf's brother.
Yeah.
He also appeared on a couple of other Star Treks. He played a future version of Benjamin Sisko's son on an episode of Deep Space Nine.
Oh, I never saw. I mean, the only Star Trek I ever really watched was TNG.
Right.
And I tended to skip most of the Worf-centric episodes.
Why? Worf's so fun. He's such a jokester, that Worf.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I've barely watched that show. I don't know. It seems like Star Trek, for like character actors, is a little bit like Law and Order.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are a lot of people who like show up in multiple roles.
Yeah, they'll be in multiple episodes as like someone from Starfleet, or they'll be like the ambassador of some alien race, or they'll be like a fucking Romulan or something. Yeah.
I mean, it's a little easier to do on Star Trek because like you can have one episode where you're in a Starfleet uniform, and
the other ones you're in prosthetics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like, on Law and Order, like the same people have played like 4 different lawyers.
Yeah.
So like, was that the same lawyer? No, different same actor, different lawyer.
Yeah, different lawyer.
Different guy.
A lot of brothers in this family.
1991, he's in the film Voodoo Dawn, which is one of his earliest horror movies and one of the earliest roles that he takes that is associated in some way with voodoo or hoodoo. He plays a doctor named Dr. Makute, who's turning people into zombies.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna do, and he might have settled into a long career of that being his demographic, but he didn't. Because the very next year, 1992, he had a little film called Candyman.
Yeah.
So, this is his big role. This is his monster.
Mm-hmm.
This is his iconic performance. What's your take on Candyman? You seen Candyman?
I have not. I told you before, I wasn't much of a horror film guy growing up. I mean, I've seen tons of slashers, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
And Candyman eluded me for a while. I will say this. To this day, that poster just gives me the willies.
Oh, with the bee.
The bee next to an eyeball?
The bee crawling next to the eyeball.
No, thank you.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you there, yeah. Yeah, Candyman is a odd franchise. It's based on a Clive Barker short story. But I think it's one of those short stories where they basically just took the title and kind of elements of it and then sort of crafted their own narrative around it. It's a very unique, interesting boogeyman to sort of center your story around. It's a monster that is deeply rooted in tragedy because Tony Todd plays the character of Daniel Rubital, who was an artist who fell in love with a white woman and was lynched by her husband and, other crowds of angry white people. His hand was cut off and replaced with a hook, and he was smeared in honey, and he was stunned to death by bees, and he became a vengeful spirit of darkness who appears and kills you after you say his name 5 times in the mirror.
Yeah, it's like a Bloody Mary situation. That much I do know about. Yeah.
It's somewhat playing off of the Bloody Mary legend there as well, too. Also, we should be a little careful about the amount of times we say Candyman. I think maybe that's the 3rd time we've said it, so we can do one more, which is hard because we've got 3 other movies to talk about. No, we're not going to.
Maybe you can skip
There's no mirrors in here. There's no mirrors in here. We're fine.
That's what I thought you were saying. Just like, just to keep things from being repetitive. No, you're saying you're worried about the actual.
I'm worried he might show. It might pop up.
We're always talking about getting a celebrity in on the show as a guest, and this is how we're going to get Tony Todd.
Well, no, we're going to get Candyman as well. There we go. That was the 5th time. Oh no, being stabbed. Yeah, a weird franchise. Really, there's only one good movie, and that's the original one. There were 2 sequels, and then the remake that came out a couple of years later. I'll get to those eventually. So, 1993, he follows up Candyman with a film called Excessive Force, which is a starring vehicle for Thomas Ian Griffith, if you know who that is.
Nope.
He was the villain in The Karate Kid 3, and he is a martial artist, so they kind of like spun him off into a brief flirtation of, is this guy a movie star?
Right.
And then after like 5 or so movies that went straight to VHS, everyone was all like, nope. Nah. Sure isn't.
Okay.
He did pop up eventually on Cobra Kai.
Yeah. I mean, most everybody who's
on that show came back at one point in time.
They found a way.
Yes, but I did find this was funny as I was going down the thing. It's all like, oh, he's in a movie with Thomas Ian Griffith. Oh, okay. And the poster is just Thomas Ian Griffith on it. And then I went down the cast. This cast also includes James Earl Jones, Lance Henriksen, and Burt Young.
Oh.
And none of those names are on the fucking poster. It's just Thomas Ian Griffith,
Crazy.
Front and center.
Huh.
Talk about burying your lead. 1994, a movie that I completely forgot that he was in. He's in The Crow.
That's right, he is in The Crow.
Yes, he plays Grange, who is the bodyguard of the villainous Top Dollar.
Yeah.
He's like one of the main bad guys. He makes it to practically the very end of the movie.
He's the mini-boss, right?
He's basically the mini-boss. Yeah. I think, spoiler alert for The Crow, I think he gets killed by Ernie Hudson. He doesn't actually get crowed. In the movie. Yeah. But still, I had completely memory hold that. I completely forgot that he was in that. But as soon as I saw that, I'm all like, oh yeah, of course he is. 1995 is the first Candyman sequel, Farewell to the Flesh, which was directed by Bill Condon, who went on to be like a prestigious Oscar-winning director.
Yeah, that name sounds familiar.
He directed Dreamgirls. He directed the live-action Beauty and the Beast. He directed Gods and Monsters, Kinsey. He directed the last 2 Twilight movies. His career's been all over the place.
All right.
But,
it's funny. For a guy who sounds familiar, I don't think I've seen any one of those.
No? All right. Well, there you go. So, Candyman 2, Farewell to the Flesh. This one takes place in Louisiana, and it does the thing that drives me crazy about these movies is that it gives way more backstory to Candyman. It explains
right. Why?
Candyman.
Yeah. Even though they set him up in the first movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just, by
kind of demystifies him a little.
By adding, yes, exactly. By adding more information. And I believe he's literally tied to like a magic mirror. Like, that's how they defeat him at the end. They, like, trap his soul in the mirror, and then they smash the mirror, and it's all like, didn't need any of this.
Okay.
Really didn't need any of this backstory here. The Candyman series morphs in very bizarre ways, because up until the 2021 remake, it was a film about a black monster that was exclusively made by white filmmakers. And so they keep making all of these weird decisions that clearly weren't, like, thought out all that well. Like, a lot of Candyman's victims in the movies are other black people, and he's always lusting after white women who are kind of sort of related to him. It's a very weird mythology that I really don't think they thought out ahead of time. Let's move on. 1995, one of his rare heroic turns. He is in the TV miniseries Black Fox, which is a Western where he plays a freed slave who goes around and does daring do and saves people along with his adopted brother, who is played by Christopher Reeve.
Oh, really?
This was one of the last things Christopher Reeve did before his accident, was this TV miniseries.
Oh, interesting.
And if you look at the box art for any of these miniseries, which I believe were it's basically like 3 TV movies that they released on VHS in intervening years.
Like the whole Lonesome Dove thing.
Yeah, but exactly like Lonesome Dove. But if you look at the box art for that, it's Christopher Reeve above the title.
Yeah.
And Tony Todd's name is not to be found. He's playing the titular Black Fox, guys.
Ugh.
And he's Candyman by this point. I'm pretty sure you can put his name under Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
His name is only 8 letters. It's not going to take up a lot of space.
They might be trying to capitalize on the fact that Christopher Reeve had the accident and had to retire from leading roles.
Sure, but you can do that with a second lead.
Okay.
You can put another name up there.
Okay.
Especially if he's the main character. In 1996, he's in The Rock.
Yes.
Nicolas Cage blows him up with a missile.
Yes, he does.
In maybe one of my favorite lines in the movie.
You know that Elton John song?
I don't. And then unfortunately, Tony Todd's last line is a gay slur. But then he's blown up by a rocket because he's the rocket.
It's you. You're the rocket man.
You're the rocket man. Oh! Fantastic. And then I think he lands on a fence and gets impaled on a fence. Great.
Yeah.
A fantastic Tony Todd death in that
absolutely.
movie.
He should be proud of that.
Yeah.
Well, not so much for the gay slur.
Not so much. Hey, you know what? Someone wrote that. And then he had to say
and he's a working actor.
He's a working actor, you gotta say it. 1997, he's in one of my favorite horror movies, Wishmaster.
Yeah.
Spooky genie going around killing people. That's very much, this is a trend we're going to see in his filmography of someone saying, can I create a new boogeyman?
Mm-hmm.
And also pay homage to the boogeyman that have come before me by getting all of these other iconic horror actors in there.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I was having this thought. The trifecta of 80s horror movie bad guys. The Holy Trilogy, or Unholy Trilogy. There we go. Wow, I just spiked that mic like fucking crazy.
Yeah. But you're talking about specifically Freddy, Jason, Chucky, and...
Well, the Trinity, I would say, is Freddy, Jason, and Michael.
Right.
I would say those are the top 3 big boys.
Yeah, but Michael's from the 70s.
Michael is from, the first movie's from the 70s.
Right, yeah.
I would lump the Halloween franchise as an 80s franchise there.
Okay.
But my point that I'm poorly making here is that, whereas Robert Englund became, an icon for playing Freddy, and Kane Hodder eventually became an icon for playing Jason, there really hasn't been an iconic Michael Myers performance. So due to the lack of that really helped kind of grandfather Tony Todd in as the third section of the triangle of famous horror actors.
Yeah.
There's the famous horror characters, and then 2 of those 3 carried over, and it's all it's the guy who played Freddy, it's the guy who played Jason. And since there was no Michael, Tony Todd kind of stepped in and took that 3rd spot.
Yeah.
Because those 3 guys work together a lot. And when they're not working together, they're at conventions.
Right next to each other.
Their booths are right next to each other.
It is kind of disappointing now that whenever I do see a fucking Hot Topic t-shirt of, Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and Ghostface all sitting at the same table or something, it's usually one of Jigsaw or Chucky that's among them.
Yeah.
Their Candyman gets completely overlooked. And I think that does Tony Todd a disservice, and a movie series that, good or bad, is standing the test of time.
That is the other thing, too. You actually bring up a really good point. Whenever you see parody videos and stuff like that, where it's all the horror bros, the 2 that also get lumped in there are Ghostface and Leatherface.
Yeah.
And I'd say Leatherface has a little bit more seniority. I've never been happy with Ghostface being there.
Well, no, because Scream subverts the horror genre.
Exactly.
I mean, the newer Scream movies, I think, are trying to be a little bit more mature.
They're subverting the subversions, but ultimately it's you see
they're a little too tongue-in-cheek and wry.
You see those those horror icons standing together and everything like that. It's all they're all behind masks, but it's okay, but that's Michael Myers, that's Jason Voorhees. You point at Ghostface, that could be anyone.
Yeah.
There's 10 Ghostfaces at this point.
Yeah,
so could be, there's no iconic thing.
Yeah, Ghostface is not a character, it's a costume.
But it's because they're masks.
Yeah.
Even though Freddy is not a mask in the movies, it becomes like a Halloween mask that people can
It's a character.
put on. It's a character that people can put on, yes. Candyman
should be among that pantheon.
He should be, but he just isn't. Largely because it's a bit of a complicated costume to pull off. You have to have one hand that's entirely a hook. And if you really want to commit to it, you have to be covered in bees.
Or put on makeup.
You can put on bee makeup? You can put on little
bee stings, yeah? Little bee sting makeup? Little dots on your face?
He doesn't so much have bee stings as he has bees inside him. He'll open up his chest and you'll see like a chest cavity and there'll be bees inside.
All right. I'm just saying that cosplay crowd could probably pull something like that off.
I haven't seen a lot of good Candyman because I mean like there's two.
Get on it, nerds.
Because I mean that's the thing about but you have to be a really specific nerd to cosplay as Candyman, because the two givens are you have to be black and you have to be huge. You have to be like a tall motherfucker. I guess there can be tiny Candymen. I
don't think like the height of the person cosplaying has ever really been a deciding
I suppose
it helps,
not.
but yeah.
No.
You certainly have to be a black guy.
I will go on record as saying if you're going to dress up as Candyman, you should probably be black, yes, or a person of color. Moving on, in 1999, he's in the final Candyman sequel, Candyman 3: Day of the Dead, as that subtitle suggests. Now we're adding some Mexican racism into this. This one's really terrible. The main thing that I remember about this movie is that the main actress is played by someone from Baywatch. And this poor actor, I don't remember who the actress is, but it was clearly someone's job on set to follow her around with a small fan and a handful of ice cubes. Because her nipples are prominent in every scene.
Okay.
And I'm just all like, okay. It's like one scene is maybe a happy accident. Every scene is maybe saying a bit too much.
Yeah.
And then 2000, he gets his other franchise. I completely forgotten that he actually does, in fact, have multiple franchises. Absolutely. 2000 is the first Final Destination movie.
And I would say this is where I'm a little more familiar with his work.
Sure, you're jumping on here.
Yeah. Well, not so much jumping on. You did all the fucking research. But yeah, for a guy who never really grew up on horror movies, I like the Final Destination movies.
Oh, they're so fun.
I like most of them, I'd say.
They're so fun. I would say there's something to enjoy about all of them except 4, which is The Final Destination, which is absolutely terrible. As it would happen, the only one that Tony Todd is not in. So there you go. It's on paper right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he plays William Bloodworth, who's a sinister but not necessarily evil mortician, who, and he's not even really playing like an evil character. Like death is after these kids, these teens.
Yeah. There's always a hint that he knows a little bit more about what's going on, but
he's always all like, death has something in store for you. Can you tell us what it is? I could, but I shan't.
Yeah, Tony Todd sounds exactly like
what
this.
he sounds like, yes.
But no,
I'm not going to attempt a Tony Todd voice. I learned my lesson.
I just love seeing all these like dislikable people get their comeuppance in all these really creative Rube Goldberg ways.
No, the Final Destinations movies are really fun. Yeah, so he does that. He's back for the sequel in 2003, Final Destination 2. His character, Mr. Bloodworth, is not in Final Destination 3, but he does make a brief voice cameo as a carnival Satan, who I believe that one is the death is they're on a roller coaster. And I believe Satan's all like, come in and you'll never survive. I know something, but I'm not telling you.
Brief side note. I learned this the other day, and I never had the DVDs, but because Final Destination was one of the early DVD movies.
I remember this, yeah.
Yeah, so there was like a section where you could choose your own adventure. So like you could pause the movie as you're watching along with it, and it gives you the options.
Yeah.
And the very first one was, do you want to get on the roller coaster? And if you answer no, the people just walk away and the credits roll.
That's how it works. Yep. No, I remember that DVD. I rented that and I was playing around for it. It didn't quite work the way I think they wanted it to.
No, but that's pretty fucking clever. Yeah. And I wish more. If you want to bring back physical media, do more shit like that, please. It'll be fucking expensive to do, but I don't care.
Make more movies. Make more movies, choose your own adventure, and also make more movies. Give more options for a 5-minute movie.
Yes.
You know? It's like, we gotta go on that road trip. We gotta save the farm. Or we could not.
Yeah.
Do we? Yeah. 2006 is a very big year for Tony Todd. He's in a ton of movies that I'm not going to mention, obviously, but of course, he's also in Minotaur.
Yeah, Minotaur.
Minotaur!
That's all I'm going to say.
Is this a thing we're doing?
Yeah, also, that's what I'm doing.
You gotta throw up the horns?
Minotaur!
Minotaur! He is also in his own version of The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Kind of like how Robert Englund, after playing Freddy, was saying to himself, all right, I'm going to try doing my own Phantom of the Opera. Tony Todd was saying, like, can I play like a different boogeyman? Can I play a literary boogeyman? And much like that Phantom of the Opera, no one went for it. But also, in 2006, he's in yet another franchise, the film Hatchet, which I also mentioned on the Robert Englund episode last year, because this is yet another movie where it's doing kind of the same thing as Wishmaster, where it's like, can I create a new boogeyman? Also, there are roles for Robert Englund, Tony Todd, and Kane Hodder.
Try to give this some legitimacy.
Yes. He plays the character of Reverend Zombie in that movie. Who's not an actual zombie.
That's just his name.
That's just his name.
That's unfortunate.
It's yet another New Orleans set horror movie, and I believe he gives haunted tours or whatnot, and it turns out there's a man with a hatchet! Oh no! He was in that, and he was also in the 2010 sequel, Hatchet 2. In between that and 2009, he also voices the titular character in Transformers Revenge of the Fallen.
He was the Fallen?
He was the Fallen.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it.
The worst of the Michael Bay Transformers movies.
Ooh, okay.
Take
your word for it.
There are 3 more after that, and they're all significantly better than this one. He doesn't do much as the Fallen. He does a lot of sitting down, as I remember. And then at the end, he fights Optimus Prime, and he's like, I'll kill you, Prime. And I think Optimus Prime shoots him in like 2 minutes. Those movies don't know how to do final battles.
No.
Like Optimus Prime
they leave it up to the VFX artist. No director is on set, actually. No, they're just following the storyboard.
But I just mean, like, every single one of those movies ends with, like, Optimus fighting Megatron or whoever, like, the villain of the thing is. And it's like, all right, final battle time. And then it's over in 2 minutes because Optimus, like, rips their spine out. It's always, like, super graphic and super gory, but they're robots, so it doesn't matter. But it's always such a huge anticlimax. In those terrible, awful movies. 2011, he shows up again in the flesh for Final Destination 5, because that one is technically a prequel to the first movie. So he's around. He's there, even though his character never dies. But anyway, they brought him back, which is the important thing.
Right.
And then in 2021, he popped up ever so briefly in the Candyman reboot that was produced and I believe co-written by Jordan Peele. That movie isn't necessarily about his character. There's a new Candyman, and it's sort of about like the legacy of multiple Candymen throughout the years, but they do give him a cameo at the very end. He gets the final line of the movie.
Right.
Because you gotta give him a little nod there. And then, and on top of that, he's also done a large number of voice acting roles, including some prominent super villains. He, of course, sounding the way he does, has voiced Darkseid.
Yep, makes total sense.
In multiple DC properties, starting with Reign of the Superman and Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
Yep.
Also in the DC universe, he's also the voice of Zoom in the CW Flash show.
Oh, okay.
Zoom is
he's like an evil counterpart of Flash,
He's an evil counterpart of the Flash who wears a yellow and red suit, but for some reason is a different character from Reverse Flash, who also
is an evil counterpart of the Flash.
The rogues gallery of the Flash is really confusing, particularly when it comes to like the Flash doppelgangers.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because like from brief comic tangent here. Yeah, he's got in the DC pantheon. I think he has like probably like the 3rd best rogues gallery after Batman's at the top, then possibly Superman, and then it's the Flash. Then it's Flash. And the Flash's villains range from a bunch of like loser C-list villains that actually have a ton of personality and charisma, but they're just like, bank robbers, essentially.
They're workaday Joe Job bank robbers.
Yeah, and the Flash, who is like all powerful, like he can stop in no time. So to really up the threat level, they got to throw in a bunch of, how do you beat the Flash? Just make another Flash.
That's the thing about the Flash's rogues gallery that's really weird is half of his villains are just like
they throw away Batman villains,
workaday bank robbers with gimmick powers.
Yeah,
and the other half are evil versions of him who are psychopaths.
Yeah,
who love to murder and maim and kill and are
who
absolutely insane,
and who have the powers of the Flash,
yes.
but they don't show up and destroy the universe all the fucking time. They conveniently just bide their time for fucking...
Well, because they have all the time in the world. Because they can go wherever they want. They got the Speed Force bullshit or whatever it is. I kind of fell off of the CW Flash. It is truly funny how, like, that the opening narration of that show is all like, I'm Barry Allen, I'm the fastest man alive. And every season, they introduce someone who is faster than the Flash. Yeah. That's always the conflict of every season. I'm the fastest man alive, except for that guy, and also him. And finally, to cap things off, he will be the voice of Venom in the upcoming Spider-Man 2 video game.
Perfect.
Yep. Perfect casting. Yep. One wonders why they didn't do that sooner. And so that's all I got on Mr. Todd.
Yeah.
Mr. Todd.
On Tony Todd.
The team and actor of Washington, D.C., which is where he's born.
Oh, okay.
Remember.
I was wondering about that.
Man, parody songs are hard to write, man.
Yeah, don't quit your day job.
All right, well, shall we... look, there seems to be this maze that's materialized in front
a labyrinth,
of us.
you'd say.
A labyrinth, one might even say. Shall we saunter in?
You first.
Shall we see what's in the middle of this maze?
Well, we're going to check it out, and when we emerge from our charity spot, we'll tell you all about our time with Minotaur! All right.
We pick good titles.
We sure do.
Yeah.
Too common lately have been the devastations presented in yearly wildlife seasons in North America. This year, Canada alone saw the Ontario wildfires make international headlines, the evacuation of the entire city of Yellowknife, and the most recent damage done to the Kelowna region of British Columbia, destroying homes and displacing thousands of residents. This, of course, is without even mentioning the fire that destroyed the Maui town of Lahaina, which as of this recording has resulted in a death toll of 115. We are in a global climate emergency, and though the desire to help is great following a wildfire, certain protocols must be followed to ensure timely delivery of resources and proper prioritization in the affected areas. Groups such as the BC Wildlife Fund advise against making unsolicited donations of food or goods, which require additional resources to coordinate and may even go to waste. Instead, these groups stress the need for trained volunteers and suggest those willing to help work with organizations like the Canadian Red Cross, which has launched an appeal to help support people affected by wildfires. Donations to the Canadian Red Cross will be used for immediate and ongoing relief, recovery and resilience efforts in response to the fires in British Columbia and the Northwest Territories. Donations may also be used for preparedness and risk reduction for future all-hazard disaster events within Canada. If you would like to find ways to help those affected by the wildfires, please visit redcross.ca or canadahelps.org and look for ways to support the 2013 Canadian wildfire relief efforts. Again, those websites are redcross.ca and canadahelps.org.
We're back.
Yeah.
So Minotaur! It was directed by Jonathan English, in it?
Oh, brilliant!
Brilliant! I think he's Dutch. No, he's not. He's a British filmmaker. Not to be confused with the Rowan Atkinson character Johnny English. That's a different guy. Slight sidebar here. Every once in a while, I like to remind myself that there are 3 Johnny English movies, and I'm just like,
really?
What a world! What a world to live in. What's up? What's up, UK?
Huh?
What's up? Why are you demanding more out of Rowan Atkinson?
Yeah, hasn't he done enough for you people?
Hasn't he done enough? Can't you let him rest? That's a character based on like a line of credit card commercials.
Oh, really?
And that's where that character came from, and they're all like, you know what? There's something. I'm thinking legacy character here for you, Rowan. This could be it.
Wasn't that how Ted Lasso got a TV show?
Hey, there you go. So there's...
It was based out of a bunch of UK ads for like footwear or something, and or just promoting like the next Premier League or something. And then they said like, hey, maybe there's a TV show in here somewhere, Jason Sudeikis.
So there you go.
Huh.
Ted Lasso, Johnny English.
Brendan, are you starved for movie ideas?
Space Jam?
TV show ideas?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like a third commercial turned into a movie. Anyway, Johnny English.
Commercials turned into movies. We got Transformers movie. We got
Barbie.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Those are more products turned into movies.
They were toys first, though.
Anyway, man. I've seen that Ninja Turtles movie twice. I saw it last night with Steven. Fuck, it's so fucking good. Cool. Anyway,
Minotaur.
Tangents. John. I'm just gonna call him Johnny English now.
Right,
Johnny English.
What did he do?
He's directed some other stuff. His other big claim to fame is the 2011 film Ironclad, which is a medieval movie. It's like a medieval hack and slash movie based on. It's like a historical fiction type movie. Paul Giamatti plays a wicked British king, and he looks like this. I had to screenshot that because I'm just all like, that's an amazing Paul Giamatti wig in this movie. Yes, but Paul Giamatti plays like an evil British king, and a bunch of lovable rogues are out to stop him. Brian Cox, our old pal Jason Fleming, Kate Mara is in this. Apparently, it's just a big, bloody, gory...
Good time.
All right. I don't know if it's a good time, but it's a time.
Oh, gotcha.
Certainly.
It's a medieval times.
And it is a medieval time. Well done. And and then he must have really wanted that to become a thing because he eventually did a direct-to-DVD sequel, Ironclad Battle for Blood, which starred none of the people that I just mentioned from the first movie. So he did that and he did this, and that's where we are. And Minotaur is based on the Greek legend of Theseus and the Minotaur.
Somewhat, yeah.
In the sense that there's
a Minotaur.
There's a Minotaur and okay, all right. Here's my first question. Is there a Minotaur in this movie? Is the monster in this movie a Minotaur?
Ooh.
Can we talk about this monster?
Yeah.
Can we talk about this guy?
Sure. Is there a half-man, half-bull creature running around? The short answer is objectively no. It is just a giant bull that's lost, that's trapped in a labyrinth.
He seems to be made out of bones?
Bones and weird flesh.
He's a bone bull?
Yeah, he doesn't have the face of a bull. It's like a flesh-covered skull of a bull, but also it's a much larger than an average bull. This is like the bull the size of a fucking SUV.
But when you think of Minotaur, like what's the image that comes to your mind? You're thinking like
I'm thinking dude with the head of a bull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But pointedly he is walking like a man.
Yes.
He's on two legs. This Minotaur, no.
Yeah.
He's got hooves. He's on all fours throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
And he usually has, it's not just that he has the head of a bull, it's that like he's like a black bull. A black fuzzy bull is like the one that I'm picturing like Chronicles of Narnia has like a Minotaur.
Sure, yeah.
That's like the standard Minotaur that I have
the
in
face
like,
of a big cow or whatever the
face
fuck.
Face of bull.
Yeah, face of bull, strong of heart, whatever the fuck.
Strong like ox, but not he bull.
But he walks upright and this is not it.
This ain't your daddy's Minotaur.
No.
In fact, you
doesn't even have the face of a bull. It has the skull that has like flesh wrapped around it.
Now,
it's a real ugly looking thing.
Don't get me wrong, I love a skull boy. I love skeletons, but this isn't when I sign up for a movie called Minotaur.
Yeah, you want to see a goddamn Minotaur.
I want a gosh dang Minotaur in the movie, and like there's like this movie just has like a monster.
Yeah,
it's just a monster.
And funny enough, there are Minotaur statues, which are the typical...
that look like the fucking Minotaur. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So the people that created Minotaur, they had an idea. They had a plan. And then somewhere along through the, the process phase, something fucked up. And they're like, oh, shit, well...
Because half of the time this monster is clearly terrible CGI, but there are definitely portions of this movie where it's a practical built monster. Like,
I'm talking about the people in the movie. When they decided that they needed a Minotaur, they had a conceptual phase, and then it just fell apart.
Well, that raises like the interesting question about like how we like depict deities based on like how like they actually look.
Yeah.
But spin over the years has like the Minotaur got born.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into this.
Like, in the traditional sense.
In the
way that actually, happens in the Greek myth.
Yep.
Yeah. I was a big fan of Greek mythology. I'm a big fan of mythology in general. But as a kid, for some reason, I just really, gravitated towards Greek myths.
Oh, because they're the coolest. And they're the sexiest.
Hey, on that subject.
Yeah.
Could this potentially be the fucking horniest movie we've ever covered?
I mean, it's got 2 horns. It's got 2 big ones.
Okay.
On that note, I have to say no. Frankly, my big takeaway from this movie, I know we're kind of jumping to the end here, but my big takeaway, this movie's not horny enough. This movie really could it set the stage.
We'll get
for being no, man. Look,
you're right. It
how,
did.
How many of those Italian B movies have we fucking watched? This is nowhere near the horniest movie that we've ever watched.
All right, but there's a lot of sex talk and a lot of different types of sex.
A lot of sex talk.
Yeah. Okay.
Not a lot of sex action.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So this is a not recommend from Kaz.
You know what it is? You know what it is, Jameson? I figured it out. Is that the queen became pregnant with a bull baby somehow. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it right now. She became pregnant with the Minotaur, and then everyone was really excited because they're like, oh my god, the Minotaur is coming. The Minotaur is inside the queen. And then they built all the statues before they saw the Minotaur. They built what the Minotaur should look like. Yeah. And then the Minotaur came out like a bundle of like bones and flesh. And they're all like, well, into the labyrinth.
Into the labyrinth you go.
With this, let's try not to look directly at you as much as possible.
Now, from what I remember of the myth of the Minotaur, is that it was some king of the island kingdom of Minos, and they wanted to appease Poseidon or whoever the fuck, and they wanted to sacrifice like this bull, like this prize bull from this one amazing bull breeder. And the king took one look at that bull and said, no, this is too good to sacrifice for Poseidon.
I'm going to have him fuck my wife.
Well, no, because the gods are fucking nuts. He decided, well, I was looking forward to having this bull to myself. So as punishment for you welshing on our fucking deal, I'm going to have your wife fall in love with the bull. And then she fucked the bull and had she had the Minotaur baby.
The Minotaur baby, which
I'm going to say is roughly depicted as I just said. A woman fucks a bull in the opening 2 minutes of this movie.
Well, but does she? Because the thing that I got confused at, first of all, like I'm saying that this isn't like a terribly horny movie. The second note that I did write down though was
bestiality kicks off the fucking movie.
1 minute and 54 minutes in, we get boobs.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it is the only time we get boobs throughout the entire movie. But they did front load with them. But like, if she had sex with like an actual bull, like the animal bull, I either missed that part of the description, because from what we're hearing from like this opening narration or whatnot is like these people, it's like the island of Minas, right? So I don't know what you would call those people.
Mennonites. No.
Mennonites! That's what they are!
No.
And so like they wanted to make a god. They wanted to make a bull god.
Because they worship the bull.
And they worship the bull, but they wanted like a physical god.
Yes.
Like they wanted a god to be around with them hanging out.
Yeah.
So all they say in the movie is that the queen became pregnant with a bull.
Yeah, so either like fucking immaculate conception through an actual
That was my
deity.
question. How did the bull get in there?
Yeah.
I guess they didn't have the money or the willingness to shoot that scene of a bull.
No. So what they wound up doing was they just made a newborn with a face of a bull.
Well, no, they made the eraser. They made the eraser head baby.
Yeah.
Is what they made.
Yeah. So they made that prop, and then
or maybe the queen had sex with a bull statue.
I don't know how that would work.
It's like, I don't know.
All we know is that somehow a giant bull was created.
Somehow Minotaur survived.
Yeah. And so this empire built a big maze for it, and they say that, their empire grew, and as they grew, all these different other kingdoms and tribes went to war with them, and then this one particular tribe managed to kill a prince of this bull-worshipping empire. And,
which we later learn is a bunch of bull.
I wonder how long it was going to take us.
Ladies and gentlemen.
But yeah, as punishment, this empire is forcing this tiny little village to sacrifice 8 people every 3 years as a sacrifice to the bull.
That's plenty of time to make more people.
I suppose.
In 3 years, at the looks of this village, like 8 people is like a third of the population. So it's kind of amazing that I'm not sure how this math is working out here.
But from what I recall, that is somewhat accurate to the fucking myth of Theseus.
Look, whoever wrote this script, at the very least, glanced at the myth of Theseus and the bull. They got the Coles Notes version.
Yeah.
They remembered high school history.
Right.
To
much
some degree.
much as like I'm doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. You read the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we go to this village, and we meet the hero of this movie.
Not Theseus, Theo.
Theo, because you want to make him hip and relatable for the youth today, for the kids and everything.
And a good way to help that is to cast Tom Hardy as Theo.
Yes, this is a Tony Todd episode, and by all accounts, we are talking about a movie that stars a much more famous person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 degrees. He's
Sure.
Tom Hardy's an A-list actor. Tony Todd is a shall we say, an A-list horror celebrity.
Yeah, which is basically a C-list actor.
Sure, why not? If we're being, yes, I'm being a little generous there. Now, we had a handful of Tony Todd movies to pick from. We were spoiled for choice.
Mm-hmm.
When we ultimately landed on Minotaur, I was briefly a little concerned that we might actually be burning kind of the best Tom Hardy episode, because Lord knows we'll probably get around to talking about Tom Hardy eventually. I imagine a guest might suggest him at one point in time. So I was a little reticent, and I was going through his filmography. I'm like, is there anything else we can talk about? And then I remembered he was in that Al Capone movie that no one remembers came out. Because it came out like right when the pandemic started, and was one of like the first new movies that you could like rent or buy from home for like $20 or whatever. But it has already been completely memory holed by society. No one remembers that Tom Hardy was in an Al Capone movie from the director of Fantastic Four. And good thing, too, because it's fucking weird.
Okay.
It's a weird-ass movie, so this might be a future spoiler. If we ever talk about Tom Hardy again, we'll probably be talking about that, because we can't talk about Minotaur.
But anyways, Tom Hardy's in this movie.
Tom Hardy's in this movie. Now, he's not uber famous at this point.
No, this was made in 2006.
2006,
right? Yeah.
But it is important to note, like, he's not completely a nobody at this point. He had been in some stuff. He's one of many, many people who are future A-list superstars who are buried in the cast of Black Hawk Down.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of his first movies. He's also in the Daniel Craig gangster film Layer Cake.
Yeah.
But most pointedly, by this point, he's the villain in the final Star Trek The Next Generation movie, Nemesis.
Yeah.
And that's like a leading role. So like, yeah, at this point in time, like if you pick this up, someone who's like a sci-fi or horror fan is going to recognize him as Shizon? I believe that's his name.
As the guy who ruined the Star Trek TV show movies. Like they stopped making them after
that movie's but no, that movie was meant to be the last one.
Okay.
That movie, very much, the plot of that movie is, this is the final one.
Right.
Everyone's too tired to do
But but pointedly, this was after he did that Star Trek movie, but before he did Bronson.
Yes, this is right before he does Bronson.
Right, okay.
And then after Bronson, he does Inception, and then he's off to the races.
Yeah.
But he's just baby-faced old Tom in here, and and he's Theo.
Yeah, he's Theo, the town shepherd, and the son of the village chieftain, played by our old friend Rutger Hauer.
Now, this is what he's getting up there. This is like what, like the fourth movie we've
I think
done
it's
with
the
him?
third, because he did Argento's Dracula, he did Iron Mask, and then this. Is there one I'm forgetting?
You're forgetting Mr. Stitch, my friend.
I forgot Mr. Stitch. Okay, then this is the fourth time.
This is the fourth time we've done this.
All right, well, he's getting close to being in the Hall of Fame.
He's getting up there. We got one more.
That's true.
I feel like maybe it's like an unwritten rule that if you make it to
like 5 movies,
the Hall of Fame, you can't be the subject of one of our episodes. You just have to be in the movies.
Gotcha.
Because I feel like that's how everyone else has gotten to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, sorry, Shannon Tweed, Danny Trejo, and Roddy Piper.
Yeah, they'll never have. I guess we have covered Roddy Piper.
A couple of times. We never went over his filmography, though.
Has Roddy Piper ever been the lead of a movie that we've covered?
Not that we've covered?
No, he's always been a secondary character, hasn't he?
That's true.
I don't know. Anyways. So Rutger Hauer is briefly in this movie as Tom Hardy's dad, because, that makes sense. And we find out that, he's like the village chieftain, and he's been working out this deal with the people on the island, with the Minotaur and all that. But because Theo is the future leader of the village. He's the future ruler.
He can never be taken as a sacrifice to Minotaur.
And what that means is he fucks off to the mountains with his sheep after the fact, and he just hides in the bushes until the pillaging is all done and finished.
And the other villagers have a real chip on their shoulder about this because all their kids get taken. Well, not all their kids. They just go for, they say they go for the youngest person.
And
but
by that they mean full-grown adults.
Yeah, like the people in like their early 20s.
Yeah, spoiler alert, a ship full of youth get kidnapped and taken to the island. And yes, the youth are all played by people with like 5 o'clock shadow. People who have been paying their taxes. They've been paying their taxes for like 10 years at this point. Yeah.
It's a real like fucking 30-year-olds playing high schoolers in Smallville sort of thing. But yeah, so there's too many characters to name, but there's
a bunch of characters, but like you don't worry about it because you know they're all going to be Minotaur chow.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah, even though for the most part they kind of stick around a little bit. They have a long shelf life.
They do.
As far as like fodder for horror
But that's
movies.
largely due to the fact that we will get to it. The Minotaur's not the best at the killing, but anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
So one day, Tom Hardy is just failing to look after his sheep because a bunch of wolves go after him.
It's your one job. You're the shepherd.
Yeah.
That's the one thing you're supposed to not do.
And
let the wolf eat him.
And he gets lured into a cave by the town leper, who also doubles as the town's fucking soothsayer or something. And she has this...
Everyone knows lepers have magical powers.
Right.
That's what happens. Your skin falls off, and then all of a sudden you can commune with nature.
Yeah. And she says, you will go to the island and you will be the person who kills, who slays the Minotaur himself, while mentioning that his fiance or girlfriend who had been sacrificed in the last purge, she's still
the last purge.
She's still alive.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
She's still alive. She's still alive.
Yes.
You must go and rescue her there and kill the bull.
Theo is he is heartbroken. He has still been mourning his lost love for, one has to assume, over a year. And
get over it, pal.
And he has not moved on. Like his dad tries to get him some strange later on that night.
What's that girl's name? Dee Dee?
Dee Dee?
Yeah.
Yes. Which is it's very ABBA.
Yeah.
A very Scandinavian name.
Yeah, really.
For Greeks. Mm-hmm. No, he's still forlorn, but yes, this magical leper woman tells him that no, she's the one, she's still alive. I'm not going to give you any more details than that, but she's still out there. You can go, you can save her, and while you're there, you go ahead and kill that Minotaur.
Yeah,
because that's what the myth says.
If you're gonna be in town, right? Just check it out.
If you're around, yeah, exactly. And Rutger Hauer doesn't like that plan, but it doesn't really matter because Nightfall shows up, and the horny people come. Because they have masks with horns on them.
Yeah, the foot soldiers of the Minotaur.
They're all about branding.
Yeah,
these people. It's all like we got one Minotaur, and then the next thing you know, every gift I get is Minotaur based. You know how it is. I got all these ships with Minotaurs on them. I got all these Minotaur helmets. I gotta put them to use somehow.
There's a lot to comment on in this opening raid scene. You know? Because like first of all, it's like one of these bullshit mid-2000s action scenes where it's a lot of shaky cam, a lot of crash zooms, Dutch angles, like all the fucking annoying tricks that you would see, to depict chaos in these parts.
The one part that made me laugh is they're like chasing people, they're trying to like abduct people and take them on the ship, and they're kicking like his sheep, they're kicking his flock of sheep or whatever, and for some reason the sound effect is pig squealing.
Pig squeals.
It's clearly like, and I had the subtitles on because I always have the subtitles on, and the subtitles say sheep's bleeding, but I'm all like, I know what my ears are hearing. That's not what a sheep sounds like at all.
Rutger Hauer even tells the guys, like, take the first 8 you find, and I'm like, so is there like a fucking timer? Is this going to be like a scavenger hunt game show?
There's not like a ton of scenes in this village. There really are no children.
No.
And I think this is maybe evidence of the fact of why this latest round is people in their early to mid 20s. Is because, as I said earlier, 3 years isn't enough time to have too many babies.
No.
So the first 5 times or whatever, They took all the children, and now we're left with like
all the sexy adults,
college grads.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, this is what we got. This is what we have here.
So they're picking people off, and like they're not. There's one person who's actually doing a decent job of hiding in a bale of hay, but they're found out. Some people are just like hanging out all in the same room, so they can just grab a bunch of them all at a time. And then there's one family where a dude just kind of like, here you go. There's all my family, because they drank the Kool-Aid. They're on board with this.
Yes, there's the one. I guess we can talk about our captives. Basically, what happens is a whole bunch of people get rounded up. The victims of the Minotaur get rounded up on the ship. And Theo sneaks on the ship, and he takes the place of someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And now Theo is going to, and he like stays hidden for a while, even like
more than he needs to.
Yeah, longer than he should. Like once he's on the ship, it's all like no one knows who you are, bro. You're just a captive at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that just because the foot soldiers know to be on the lookout for the village chieftain's son?
No, I can't imagine.
Yeah. But anyways, he's in the holding pen with these 8 other characters, and as the entire setup of them in the tiny village prior to the big raid from the foot soldiers, we do get introduced to each of these 8 characters. So they're all characters that we've already met. I know they have names, but I didn't write most of them down.
So there's Danu, who initially his name actually is pronounced Dano. You're right. Yeah,
welcome, Dano.
There's plenty of scenes where Tom Hardy is in the labyrinth yelling Dano.
Yeah, Dano.
It's pretty funny. I initially thought this was Tom Hardy's younger brother, but I guess he's just another boy from the village.
He's his best friend, and he seems to know a lot about the Minotaur psychology. So of this group of captives, he's the brains.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm going to go and break down all these archetypes as you mentioned them.
He's Specs.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's Morna, who Dano is in love with.
Yeah, she is a mute, we
assume. Not deaf, just not a fan of talking.
Yeah.
She can talk.
She can talk.
Just chooses not to largely.
It's kind of pegged in her first introduction scene that Dano says, like, I know they're going to be coming for you, Morna, because you're the most beautiful. I will try to protect you as best I can. Just say my name. Please, don't sign it. Just say my name. Let me know that there's love in your...
So he has to be aware of the fact that she's just choosing not to talk.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'll bring that up again when I want to make my second point. But she's the mute.
Yeah. There's Nan, who is the one who's...
the true believer.
Yeah, she's the true believer. She's kind of a zealot. She's happy that she's going to the Minotaur. She's happy that she's going to get sacrificed. There's Vina, who is the worst.
Yes.
Absolutely the worst.
Yeah, she's hysterical. She nixes every fucking idea that the group has of trying to survive. She's only looking out for herself.
There's Zico, who's the fat one.
Yeah.
You gotta have one of these.
Who's got a big fucking target on his back. He's the least archetype-y of the archetypes.
And then finally, there's Tyro, except there isn't, because I found out when I was watching the credits that this actor's actual name is Lex Shrapnel.
Whoa!
And I'm sorry, when your name is Lex Shrapnel, I'm not calling you anything else.
All right, Lex Shrapnel is like the hothead who has the biggest beef with Tom Hardy.
Yes, because he was also in love with Tom Hardy's girlfriend. It's that classic trope of like, she was never good enough for you, and then you didn't save her. I tried to save her.
Yeah.
And he's like,
and
the
your
tough guy.
daddy's number one son who's keeping you safe, and we're all fucking fodder for the Minotaur. Yeah. So what I'm getting at here is like, here's a collection of 8 interesting characters. Now, obviously, this being a horror movie, they're going to get picked off. But the other way to look at it is, here's a collection of people that all have different perspectives on the problem they're all facing together. Isn't this an interesting group that could be going through a maze together? It's like, Dan Harmon talked about this when he was assembling the characters for Community, and they wanted to have all like very broad personalities that they could all attack the same story with. The same thing happened with Star Trek TNG, and the same thing happened with, Firefly. You want to have this strong ensemble there, and I thought this could have been an interesting opportunity to do that if you wanted to have each of these characters face this problem and come to a solution together. They didn't all have to die. They could have all survived in this, and I probably would have been happy with it.
So what you're saying is you want to see a horror movie in which all of the horror movie archetypes figure out the horror movie problem fairly early on, and then no one dies, and then they continue living their life. I don't hate this idea. I'll be perfectly honest, kind of into it.
It would be incredibly boring unless you upped like the amount of victims. So you do have a bunch of nameless, fodder for the Minotaur. But you up that cast to like, okay, instead of 8 captives, which is accurate to the Grecian myth, up that to fucking 20. And now a bunch of no-names die, and this collection of 8 that we all get to know and fall in love with.
But then no one's left in the village. That's the entire village, basically.
Well, then make the village fucking bigger. I don't know.
No, make it a city.
I don't know. That's
exactly.
my point I wanted to make. They give each of these characters have such a strong archetype around them, and I thought it'd be interesting.
I mean, they certainly have an archetype. They certainly are those. It's almost like someone read a book on how to write characters for a movie, and then just been all like, I'll take that one, and I'll take that one, and I'll just put it all in there, and there we go. I got a movie there.
But anyways, here's our cast of characters.
Yes, as such as they are. So they get to the Isle of Minas. It's really hard. I really have to stop myself not adding
Minos or Tirith?
I don't know. What is it? Yeah, you're the history buff.
This is mythology.
You're the mythology wizard.
Yeah, the myth head.
Oh God, I got the shakes.
Yeah.
And they go and they get taken into the throne room, and it is here where we finally are introduced to Tony Todd.
His amazing Cobra outfit.
Oh, man. And Tony Todd is just sitting on a golden throne, and of course his very first action is to pick up an animal skull and huff gas right out of it. Because, what else are you going to do? How else do you introduce this character?
Huffing this fucking CGI heat wave gas. Like,
looks fucking terrible.
And he does that a couple of fucking times. It's his fucking runner. He huffs gas throughout this movie.
Yeah, and they say that this is like a natural gas that just like is part of the throne room or the palace or whatever the hell they are.
It's what lits the flames in the altar room or whatever.
That, but it's it also...
I mean, lots of questions I have about this gas and what it can actually do to people.
It seems to be lesbian gas at one point in time. Or I guess just like horny gas. I guess it doesn't matter what gender you are if you horny. You just basically want to...
Until it doesn't.
Until it stops working.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. We're going to get to that. Yeah. Because, so Tony Todd is here. He is playing Deucalion, even though that name is never said out loud, but apparently that is the name of the character from the myth as well. So he is playing the mythical king of the story.
Okay.
And whatnot. But I believe that's where the similarities end.
I would hope so.
Yes. And he is there, and he is, he's the king of whatever island nation this currently is, and they've got the Minotaur down there, and he is joined by a princess.
His sister.
It takes a couple of scenes before we find out what their connection is, and when we do find out their connection, we really wish that we didn't. And and this is kind of the scene that has like the most juice for Tony Todd. I liked his performance in this quite a bit. I was
going to say he kind of saves the movie for me.
I think he could have turned it up the knob a little bit more. I think he's at like a 7. I would have liked to see him at a 9.
Okay.
But
I think he
Tony Todd at a 7 still pretty good.
Yeah, I think him at a dial of 7 is still better than most other people. He knows what's going on in this movie.
He understood the assignment.
And he
knows what he's doing in a movie called Minotaur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought he was good in this movie. Very good in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's basically all like, you know what the deal is. Y'all know what the deal is.
Yeah.
Y'all are going in the labyrinth, and the Minotaur are gonna go chompy chomp chomp. But first, we'll have a little bit of fun. I'll take 2 of these girls. He takes the mute one and the one that
nobody likes.
The one that sucks.
Yeah.
And it is funny because Theo at this point tries to save them, so he speaks out and he's all like, "My lord, you don't want to sacrifice those 2. They're very annoying."
They're annoying.
And it's like, well, one of them is.
One doesn't talk.
They will not please you, my lord.
And how will they not please me, boy?
They are unknowing, my lord.
Unknowing?
I think the implication is that you're not going to have fun ravishing these 2 because they're a little, prudish. I think that's his implication.
I don't really know what his plan was.
Because then
he was thinking on his feet.
Because, yes, he was.
Yeah.
And that's when Tony Todd says, oh, yeah? Well, sister, show her what you got. And then she takes a huff of the gas.
Of the horny gas.
Of the horny gas.
Yeah.
And she goes and makes out with those two women. And they are super into it.
Yep, and then they start making out with each other.
They really go at it.
Basically, it's poppers. It's what it is. That's what the gas is. It's just they get really high for like a very short amount of time.
They completely lose themselves into that gas, and then they're going to be thrown into the Minotaur pit. And then they don't.
And then Tony Todd changes his mind, and he takes them all to get. We just had like a 5-minute scene of them all in the same cell together on a boat, and then we're finally out of that, and then they immediately get put into another cell, all of them together.
Yeah.
And so they do, and then the princess comes by, and she's got her eye on Theo because he's a young Tom Hardy, so why wouldn't she?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, she's got a ploy to get away from the king because she doesn't like his murdering ways. She doesn't like... No, she's going to be eventually promised to the Minotaur, I believe, to sire another...
To sire the next generation of Minotaur.
Something like that, and she doesn't want that.
No, she's promised to her brother, because her brother wants to put his...
Yeah.
He wants to put his seed in her, which is a line that Tony Todd says.
So to recap, this movie has bestiality, incest, rape.
Is there rape?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's rape. He threatens his sister with rape. With gang rape.
Well, look, we've watched plenty of terrible movies that have not implied rape. Like it has just like full-on rape. A little implied rape is like a
welcome.
It's like a cool summer breeze for us on this podcast. It's all like it's
okay.
Just the suggestion of it. Yeah, and there's not like any we get the idea that probably incest has happened off camera, but thankfully it doesn't go quite that far. But the threat of incest is definitely there.
Yeah. So the princess calls for Tom Hardy to go into her chambers. And she gives him
We know what that means. Yeah!
Gives him a good whiff of that gas that's supposed to make him horny, but somehow he's able to resist, even though nobody else is able to resist the gas. But in this instance, he is.
I'm straight edge, girl.
That's right.
I'm not about that life.
He's eventually going to be Bane, so he's going to be, he's used to these chemical...
Exactly. He's all pumped up on the gas, exactly. Yeah, his blood is filled with venom!
And that's when she says, no, I sent the leper to search for you, and she gave me the vision that you would come and save us.
I guess lepers are just hopping on and off of boats and going back and forth to islands, no problem, willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Her fucking arm is falling off, but she's all like, I'm fine. I can do a weekend in Greece, whatever, it's fine.
Those lepers got around back in the day.
They got around, I don't know. Yeah. Like, maybe there's like an idea, if there was like an act, like a scene that like made it make sense, like it's like a Game of Thrones thing with like Varys and like his little birds or whatever. Like,
if there's just a legion of lepers going around passing information.
That's an idea.
People.
At the very least, there's a chain of information being passed around there. This idea of just like this one specific old woman goes back and forth passing information. How does the princess know the leper? Not important. We're not getting into it.
Old work friends or something. I don't know.
Exactly. Yes. We did forget to mention that in the earlier scene, when they got like the gas and everything like that, we're kind of introduced to the Minotaur.
Oh yeah.
Minotaur is a little
shy,
little camera shy. Yeah, exactly. And Tony Todd is all like, "Come on out, Minotaur, get your lunch.
These lesbians are hot and ready for you."
He's just kind of like over in the corner. And he's all like, Minotaur, and he's all like, yeah, I'll be there eventually, and when I do get there, you're not gonna like it. You're gonna be disappointed. No one wants to see this. I'll just be in the shadows.
I'll just be waiting here.
I'll just be in the shadows. So yeah, the princess tries to get Tom Hardy on her side, and he plants the seed that maybe she's there to help them, but it doesn't matter because Tony Todd comes in with his dudes.
Yeah. Tom Hardy pushes a fucking oil lamp in a dude's face and then tosses it on the ground. Does not burn every fucking
banner.
Doesn't burn every silk banner in the room and light the whole place on fire. And then he gets shot with the world's fakest looking knockout dart.
Well, this place is presumably filled with wacky laughing gas. It's amazing that it hasn't gone off already.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing. I mean, like, spoiler, that's how the movie ends, but also it's all like, There's open flames everywhere.
Yeah.
What makes this open flame different from the other open flames?
I don't get it. And
I don't get how the gas works.
Anyways, all these fucking prisoners are thrown into the labyrinth, presumably filled with this horny gas.
No, it's only specific parts of the wall.
Yeah.
And it's only when you put your face up to specific cracks in the wall. That's only when the gas gets by. That's how gas works.
This gas-filled, yeah.
Exactly.
It doesn't take over the atmosphere.
It stops right here.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. This
doesn't
is where the
disperse
gas
into the atmosphere.
You walk around the labyrinth and you're like, oh, this is where the gas starts.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just
steer clear of
I'll
this.
just take one step back and there we go. I'm out of the gas now.
Okay.
Yeah. And they take all the prisoners out of the cell, and fucking Porkins has like a handful of fruit.
Yeah.
He's still, it's all like, come on, we gotta get to the labyrinth. And he's all like, I
gotta eat first.
I gotta put these grapes in my cloak.
On an empty stomach.
Poor fucking guy.
Yeah.
And then you don't want to fight the Minotaur on an empty stomach. And then they put everyone in nets and they
lower them in.
They lower them into different parts of the labyrinth. No one goes into the labyrinth together. They're all in different parts of the labyrinth,
which presumably is massive, but
when we see it, it's the same 3 corridors. It's
a real Legend of Hercules set, you know?
Yeah. It's the same abandoned factory. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, on my notes right next to each other, I put down, oh, we're 30 minutes into this movie and we're already in the labyrinth. Okay. And then right after it, I put, wow, they all met up pretty quickly.
Hey, the movie Labyrinth got to the labyrinth in 20 minutes, so that's not true. It took a while for them to get to the labyrinth.
Well, are you saying the movie Labyrinth is better than Minotaur?
Yes.
All right, agreed.
Considerably, yes. But, and so Tony Todd is lowering Tom Hardy down into the pit, and Tom Hardy says, you think this is my first time escaping from the pit?
Okay.
I was born in the darkness, raised by the darkness. I didn't see the light until I was a man, and then when I did, it blinded me.
All right.
I had to do it once.
Oh, you did?
It's Tom Hardy getting lowered into
Who
a
asked
pit.
you to do it? Who paid you to do that?
Society.
Okay.
Yes, welcome to our Tony Todd episode, 30% of which will be Bane jokes.
We already made 2.
Got the count. We got the Bane counter going on.
So they're all running around in the labyrinth having a gay old time.
And then the Minotaur shows up, but it's lots of quick cuts, and someone gets killed. It took me like a couple of scenes before I figured out who it was.
It was the Zealot.
It was the Zealot girl. It was the one who wanted to get killed.
Yeah.
So she ultimately got what she wanted. It does feel weird, though, that, like, they introduce a character whose whole deal is like, I'm happy to get killed by the Minotaur.
And then she doesn't have that turn.
No, exactly. You, at the very least, you need to have like a split second where that character, right before their death, is questioning their life choices. Be like, maybe I don't want to get killed. Yeah. But no, she's killed so fast.
Yeah. Either she is disgusted by the amount of the actual deaths themselves, and that kind of shocks her to her core, or she sees the Minotaur get injured and realize it's not a god and it can be killed, and so her whole life has been a lie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She's not a god at all. He's not going to take me to the other side. I'm just going to die a horrible death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she's the first one to go.
She's the first one to go, and it's shot in such a way that you can't actually really tell that it's her.
No.
It's just when the other characters meet up with the other, she's the one that's missing.
Yeah.
So that's how you figure out that was the one that was going on. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're all fucking separated, and they do, eventually meet up. The one nasty girl that nobody likes, she's feeling around in the dark, and then she just picks up a skeleton to scream at it. A lot of fucking schlocky parts.
I mean, like, it's this character, you're just all like, I'm just counting the minutes until you become Minotaur.
Can't come soon enough.
And it comes pretty soon.
Actually, I think she's the second one.
She's the second one to get out.
Yeah, she's like, you guys, you're all going to die down here. I'm heading out on my own. And as she's saying this, she's standing right in front of this massive CGI black hole.
Exactly.
And it's like, well,
stand
I know
in front of this green screen.
And then it gets a horn through the head or something.
Kind of not, okay, I do feel like, we're going to talk about this eventually. All the deaths in this movie are the same.
Yeah.
All the deaths in this movie are literally exactly the same.
They all get gored on the horns.
They all just get gored on the horns of the Minotaur. There's no variation in what happens. You'd think, like, he's a big beastie. Maybe he rips someone in half.
Maybe he tramples someone.
Maybe he bites someone's head off. But no, it's just gore. It's just goring. It's all it is. It's just goring with the horning the entire time.
Because they made it a literal bull. There's like
Yeah, so what else is there to do?
Yeah, if it were like this hulking dude, he could like pick somebody up and tear their arms off like a Mortal Kombat character or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I was going to say they tried. Did they try? I mean, in the very...
they tried.
In the close-ups of
effort was made.
In the close-ups of Minotaur, it's a practical effect.
Yes.
You know, on the very close-ups of it, you can see like the hooves stomping. There's
when an actor is gored and is like set up into like whatever rig they have to be, so they're like flailing around when the Minotaur has the
rig is right. Did you see the string?
You have to. Yeah, exactly. They don't have the budget. They don't have the budget to remove those strings. But no, that has to be a practical effect because you have to lift the actor up for that.
And then all the full body shots are just CGI, and that's.
Oh yeah, whenever it's moving and running,
it
looks really bad, and it moves. It's the type of CGI where they're trying to hide the fact that it looks really bad by making it move faster than it normally would. Like there's something a little like off-putting about the Minotaur's speed. Like it's almost like it's almost
faster than everything else around it.
It's almost like it's a cartoon and it's doing that thing where it's like running in the air before it like takes off. Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. I would have that sound effect wouldn't have felt out of place at all. So back in the throne room.
Yeah.
Tony Todd is leading his sister off to do some mild incest. When she runs away and she backflips into a pit, which I thought they had closed off with like barriers and like bars and stuff, but apparently not this pit.
No, she's decided I'm going to take my chances in the labyrinth.
Yeah.
And then she falls like back first down. What I am going
you're
to
getting a concussion, lady, is what you're getting.
How deep is that hole? Is
We've
it like
seen it? It's quite deep.
It's like 20 feet deep or something? Like
it's deep enough that it's a pit to be thrown into.
Yeah.
One has to imagine it's not that shallow. So yeah.
So she's going to hit her head on the rocky bottoms and snap her neck, and then that's going to be the end of the
but
priestess.
It looked cool.
Yeah.
It looked cool.
It looked stupid, but cool.
Yeah. And Tony Todd is completely gutted by this because his sister lover is gone and she's the only one that he wants. There's a couple of this is really random, but both Tony Todd and Tom Hardy both have moments where they go, "What?" And this was one for Tony Todd, and it's just funny. It's kind of hard to explain on the podcast, but there's like this moment where it's all like, "No, my sister, you were supposed to be mine." And then he takes a break. He's like, "What?"
That's
and the other one, I was going to, because I'm talking about it now. The other one is when Tom Hardy in the labyrinth finds like his ghost girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he hugs her. And then we, like see his face and her back. And she says like, "Now you'll be with me forever." And it takes like an extra beat. And Tom Hardy just goes,
"What?
What?
Huh?
What?"
And he looks at it, he's like, "Oh no, it's a corpse."
Oh no, it's a corpse the entire time. But there were just like two comedy whats in this movie that I don't think were meant to be funny. But the way that the characters. I also love the way Tony Todd says the word shepherd. Like he really he says like that like 3 or 4 times when referring to Tom Hardy, and he always puts a little extra polish on it. It's all like, "Let me tell you something about life, shepherd." I'm doing it wrong.
Really chewing the scenery.
Yeah,
you love to see it.
That's why they pay him. That's what he does. And we got lots of reaction shots with the princess's handmaidens.
Yes,
because we're all like, okay, something's going on here.
Yeah, so the handmaiden has been instructed to go to the secret back exit of the labyrinth and let the priestess and all the people in the labyrinth out. That doesn't turn out as rosy as they wanted to.
No, and it's really stupid. And like, well, because the only thing Tony Todd wants is to get his sister out of the labyrinth. And he follows this serving girl to like the one like normal door of this labyrinth.
Yeah, it just has like one padlock on it or something.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, it's a big like tree log of a padlock.
Right, but that's going to hold in this giant bowl.
Absolutely, yes. This hulking monster, that can totally stop this one door. Anyway, this handmaiden is going there, and the princess, who meets up with our motley crew in the labyrinth and says, "I know a way out, everyone follow me," and they get to the door, but by that time Tony Todd is caught up with the handmaiden, and he said, and like he's all like, "You would let the Minotaur out? Oh, we can't have that." And this poor serving girl is killed off screen, but it's like, I thought you wanted to get your sister out of the thing. And clearly, if this is her handmaiden, why can't he put 2 and 2 together?
Mm.
Like, his only goal at this point is to get his sister out of the labyrinth. He should have realized, I'll just let
things play out as they are intended.
Play them out, and then I'll capture them again, and then I'll throw all my non-sister people back into the labyrinth.
Exactly.
But no.
Or I'll just be there at the exit waiting for them, and then she has nowhere to go but back into my arms.
Exactly,
yeah.
One presumes she would be the first one through that door.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes out and she's all like, surprise!
No, it's the Candyman!
You can all go back into the labyrinth now, please. But no, he does a very dumb thing, and he kills the only person who could save his sister, and so they remain trapped. They remain trapped in the labyrinth, and it's in this room where
the Minotaur actually shows himself.
The Minotaur actually shows himself.
He kills Fatty.
He kills Porkins.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Fatty Magoo, but then I felt bad about it. So, I'll
take that baton.
You'll take that hit.
Yeah.
This is really incompetent. This character's death, because what happens is we see the Minotaur like hit him with like the side of his head, and he goes flying up against like the stone wall. It cuts away.
Stone wall.
Sure, yeah.
This like has a lot of give. I'll say.
Plasticine and styrofoam. Sure, whatever. But whatever. When we see him, he gets like shoved against this wall. The camera cuts away. When it cuts back to the Minotaur, he is gored.
Yes.
He is already on the horse.
Yep.
I rewound it because I'm like, did I miss that? No, they just full on did not show him. It's an implied goring.
No, but it's a continuity error.
Off-screen goring is what happens. It's like that's the most important part.
Yep.
That's like
the bull gored him, and then he kind of scraped him off, and then he gored him a second time.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah,
yeah.
This is where we learn that this is where Dorna decides that she's gonna start talking.
Her first words, Minotaur!
This really made me laugh. It weirdly you've seen Christmas Vacation, right?
Yeah.
It really reminded me of the squirrel moment. I don't know what it was, but it's just all like, Minotaur!
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, we fucking know. Talk about, it's like you haven't spoken anything in like 20 years or whatever, and the first words out of your mouth are the most obvious fucking thing.
Well, now, let's talk about this for a second.
Sure.
So, clearly she's been able to talk this whole time, because from here on out, she talks a lot.
Yeah, she doesn't stop talking.
So, what the fuck was her deal before this? She mentioned something about like, I took a vow of silence in out of respect for all the people.
Out of mourning for the village is what she said.
Sure.
Which you can't see it at home, but I'm doing the jerk off motion.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't really get it. I don't understand why that character had to be silent at all, other than they stole the device from the Road Warrior, where there's a narrator, and at the end of the movie, we find out that it was her. She's now an old woman, and she's the one who's been narrating the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm all like, okay, I don't know if we needed that. I don't know if that added anything.
But yeah, she's silent to her boyfriend Dano the entire time.
Dano!
She doesn't call out to people in the labyrinth the entire time.
She never says his name.
You know, she's just being a huge inconvenient pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Maybe Tom Hardy was right when he said earlier that you don't want them, they're annoying.
Well, I thought she was going to turn out to be like secretly duplicitous or something, because there is a scene where after she starts talking, she sends Dano off on his own to his death.
Yes.
A very
off-camera death.
A completely off-camera death of a very prominent, important character
to the point where
who's had lots of lines by this point.
To the point where I thought that's a fake out. He's going to show up fine later on.
If you don't see the body, there's no death. But no, apparently that was the end of that character. It's just completely off-screen. We never find out. Tom Hardy's best friend in the movie. And and it's weird, like, because he says, like, go hide from the Minotaur. And she gives him like a charm. It's all like, this will keep you safe. And then he asks her to say his name again. And she
doesn't.
She doesn't fucking do it.
I'll come back for you. No. I'll keep you safe. It will take us home.
Say my name.
And then the next thing that happens is he gets killed by a Minotaur. And I'm all like, what's up with this lady? What's going on? She's got her own agenda.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's happening here.
It's like, okay, she's not into him that way. I get it, be your own woman and everything. Say the guy's fucking name. Give him that little bit. Throw him a bone here and there, right?
But it's
you can talk this whole time. Say my name. She doesn't know his name. She never bothered to ask. She never bothered to learn it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Take the fucking hint, buddy.
You've been in the room while other people said my name. I never learned it.
There are other women in the village, dude.
Yeah.
There's Dee Dee.
There's Dee Dee. There's one other woman in the village, yes.
And then they meet fucking Ben Gunn.
Yeah, because this
Robinson Crusoe.
Because this movie doesn't have enough characters. A totally necessary new member of the cast who has survived the Minotaur and I guess has survived living in the labyrinth consisting on rats and Minotaur shit. One imagines or whatever. But he's just like your crazy long-haired guy.
Come into my shelter, friends.
Who conveniently has a map of the labyrinth.
Yeah.
Even though
which never comes into play.
I say map.
Yeah.
It's basically just some random finger painting. And I only know that it's a map because for some reason Tom Hardy enters this cave, points at it and goes, "You have a map of the labyrinth." I'm like, I guess that's what that is.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or it could just be the scrawlings of a madman.
Yeah, or that could just be his toilet paper that he's put on his walls because he's clearly insane.
Yeah. And then also at this point, Tom Hardy goes insane because he goes to, what's that, Turok.
It's Turok Dinosaur Hunter. He's been in this labyrinth ever since the N64 days.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he goes to Turok and he beats him up and he says, like, where's my girlfriend? I know she's down here. And this alerts all the other...
He holds the map in front of him. It's like, show me on the map where she is.
Tell me where she is. And... all his yelling alerts the Minotaur to him, and everyone at that point just says, like, who's the real beast? Because he's become more beast than man.
Makes you think.
Yeah. I do not see a brother anymore. I see a beast. So who is the real monster? It's the Minotaur.
It's the monster.
Yeah.
It's the monster that's running around eating people. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, exactly.
The priestess drops the knowledge that the Minotaur was the one that actually killed the prince. And as to hide their shame, the Empire threw the bull into the Minotaur, and then to keep up appearances, they wanted to have this. Well, we'll blame your village, and we'll sacrifice.
And here's the other bombshell: is that the mother of the Minotaur is also the mother of Tony, Todd, and the princess.
Yeah.
So the Minotaur is like their brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're still not sure who the father is, but there's a bit of, was there a prince that got killed, though?
Yes.
Or is that just a story that they made up to collect people to feed to the Minotaur because they were running out of their own people to feed to the Minotaur? So it's all like, let's not get our people, let's get other people.
The story goes that they go after the people of the village because they say the people of the village killed the prince. They're not admitting that the bull killed the prince. You got to remember, these people huff gas on the regular.
Right. Sort of an unspoken thing that we haven't really brought up yet is that so this small, quaint, innocent village that Tom Hardy is from, pretty wall-to-wall white people, very, very, very sort of like Nordic, sort of like, people who look like Rutger Hauer. And then we go to this island of the people who have kidnapped the people. They're pretty much all people of color.
Yeah.
So there's some
all the Minotaur worshippers are black people.
There's some unspoken demographics of this movie that we don't have to get into, but it's a little unfortunate. There's definitely several readings you could read into this movie, but we don't need to. I know I've taken that cork out, but why don't I just go ahead and just squeeze that back there in that bottle. I know you can't recork wine, but damn it, we're gonna
try.
It is. It's back in.
It's something that we noted, and I'm moving on.
Yep. It's problem noted, and we don't need to bring it up ever again.
Yeah. I mean, that came fairly early in my notes, and we've kind of jumped 50 points since then.
So Dee Dee and Lex Shrapnel have become a unit, and they're running around.
Oh, this was...
And we kind of find out that he's actually not that bad of a guy. He
Mm.
just, he had like jealousy because Tom Hardy's like the golden boy. He kind of got everything that he wanted, and he's got a big old chip on his shoulder.
And Dee Dee drops a line, I've always been interested in you, but you always had eyes for Tom Hardy's girlfriend.
And then his response to that is nothing.
Yeah.
He has no response to that. And the scene kind of peters out.
Yeah, and we remember that Dee Dee had offered herself to Tom Hardy earlier in the movie, and he said, no, I'm still carrying a torch for my old lady. So, fucking Dee Dee, poor gal, she's always...
a beautiful woman.
Beautiful woman.
Just a stunning lady.
Yeah.
So, like...
always second to that fucking bitch.
Who I don't think ever actually she shows up in, like, ghost form.
Yeah, and hallucination form from all the gas fumes Tom Hardy's...
Theon.
Whose
name has two F's.
Yeah.
So it's Theon.
Fucking Theon.
Fucking Theon again.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like a unit. You think they're going to have like a little romance, but there's no time for romance because we got some Minotaur action going
They try
on.
climbing out of the hole, but she loses her handing and she gets impaled on the...
You know what?
horn.
I'm not even going to chuck this one up to the Minotaur.
No.
Minotaur was just standing there.
Yeah.
He was just doing his
He's
own
like,
thing.
huh? Looking up.
She fell onto him.
Yeah.
Minotaur didn't know. Minotaur didn't know what was going on.
She was a lovely, sweet, beautiful woman, and she could never catch a break.
She died an idiot's death, is what's going on.
Idiot's death, unloved by either of the two hulking men in her village.
Yeah.
Poor lady.
Justice for Dee Dee.
Yeah. In a fit of rage, Tom Hardy tosses his amulet when he realizes that the princess actually sent the leper to go and give him a lie that his girlfriend is still alive.
His girlfriend has half of the lie. It's like
It's
like a best friends forever
it's that
necklace
bullshit,
is what it is. Yeah, exactly.
So when he realizes this is all a lie and like, I curse the love that brought me here, it actually sparks a little bit in the cave because this cave is filled with flammable gas.
And yeah, he's figured out that like this necklace he has is the perfect sort of starter thing to like get like a spark going. You know what else is great for making sparks against rock? Literally anything else that you have down here.
You get 2 rocks and you scrape them on the...
And yet, like, this necklace becomes such an important fucking MacGuffin for the rest of this because it is like he cannot start a spark with anything else other than this one object, and it gets like stuck on like the Minotaur's horn at one point, and he has to ride on the Minotaur to get it back. And it's like, just pick up 2 rocks.
Yeah,
you can do this with anything. You can do it with a piece of wood if you want to.
Gotta get it done at any fucking time.
Yeah, but no, he has to go for the symbolism. He has to go for full symbolism.
Exactly. The movie forgets that Lex Shrapnel is around, so he shows up again just to get impaled.
For a second here, I thought this was going to be another off-screen death, but then we do cut back, and his death actually is quite gory.
Yeah.
This feels like maybe like the goriest death with like the most, because the thing is, like, he's set up as the character you're supposed to hate, but then
he doesn't do anything hateful.
No, over the course of this labyrinth thing, we get to know him a little bit more, and we realize, he's actually like a little bit misunderstood. He's not actually just this alpha shithead.
Yeah, he's the Jane to Tom Hardy's Mal. Firefly.
Firefly, right.
Yeah.
I'm just going
going back to my whole thing about I wanting this to be an ensemble piece.
He's the Jane to his Tarzan is where I thought you were going with that. I don't quite get what you're saying here. And so I believe that he's the last person the Minotaur kills because they're all gone at that point, and it's just Tom Hardy and the princess left, and then Dee Dee and the hermit are hiding in a cave somewhere.
Morna.
Yes,
yeah. Morna and Turok are hiding out together.
Fucking Turok survives this movie.
Yeah.
That was shocking. He was one of the survivors of this movie.
The guy who's introduced an hour into this hour and 30-minute movie.
He makes it through.
Before Tom Hardy kills the thing, there is this, I'm going to say, pretty good monologue from Tony Todd. Going back to Tony Todd here.
Absolutely no. It's a true monologue because it's just him alone.
Like, looking
in the throne room.
Looking at the pit. And he's like saying some jive about... what he does not hear, he feels. What he feel, he sees, and what he sees is death. And then he sheds a tear. And I'm like, God damn, Tony Todd.
He's giving it.
Going all out for Minotaur.
I wrote that down too. Like, he's got like a bunch of like lines that I didn't... Like, at one point in time, he's like, am I not a god that can bring people back from death? And he just asked that to an empty room. And I'm just sitting there going like, are you? We don't actually know much about you. Like, I don't... You're kind of ill-defined there, Tony Todd.
Yeah, I thought you were a fucking high priest or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
What else did I write down? As with some of these movies on Tubi, the closed captioning is pretty funny. There's a handful of things where I'm all like, I read the closed caption, I'm all like, that's not what they said. I'm fairly certain that right before Lex Shrapnel is killed, his line is, "Go Theo, flee from here."
Yeah.
But the closed captioning has it written as, "Go Theo, be from here."
Be from here.
Yes. I'm all like, I don't think that's right.
Yeah.
I don't think that's correct.
There's no editor working at the subtitle department of Tubi.
Yeah.
So yeah, they ignite the entire cavern. The palace goes up.
There's a great moment where Tom Hardy yells, "Hey, Minotaur!"
Minotaur!
And the Minotaur literally does like a, "Yes?"
Yeah.
Like he looks over his shoulder like, "Uh-huh."
Yeah, and then he impales Minotaur with his own horn that broke off in some kind of
kerfuffle. The only thing strong enough to kill Minotaur is
a Minotaur. Exactly. You fight Minotaur with Minotaur.
Because it answered my own question, because when he was sparking up with his love necklace, I was just all like, has no one tried killing the Minotaur with fire before? It seems like the first thing I would try. And then, of course, it is eventually revealed that fire cannot kill the Minotaur. The only thing that can kill
it can gravely injure him,
is
though.
Minotaur. Yeah, but he'll bounce. He
bounces back.
He bounced back from that. Yeah, it would be fine.
But yeah, Tom Hardy does stab him, and then they manage to find their way out of the labyrinth through another exit.
Yeah, and then
that Turok never knew about, even though we spent like the last however long wandering the labyrinth.
But of course, we've killed the final boss, so of course the level has to start self-destructing.
Right.
Which is what happens.
Yeah,
so
it's
they have
Super
to get
Metroid.
Out, the timer starts going. And they get this. Man, this is where the movie got really annoying, because like for like 2 solid minutes, it's just the camera shaking and styrofoam rocks falling on people's heads. Yeah, like, and it's just like, I get it. It's the thing's caving in on itself.
Rocks bouncing off Tom Hardy's head.
Yeah, we'll move it along here. Yeah. And then they escape, and then they find out that up in the throne room, Tony Todd has been crushed by like a statue or like his own throne. Yeah. Or something.
Yeah, and then the sister goes and suffocates him.
Yeah, and it's a very tender mercy killing for sort of our main human bad guy here. It's an interesting way for Tony Todd to go out. I assumed he would become a victim of his own hubris and end up on the end of that Minotaur horn.
Crushed by a Minotaur statue.
She just does that thing where she like holds his nose closed and then covers his mouth. And he just quietly dies.
Yep.
And I'm all like, that may be the nicest on-screen death Tony Todd has ever had.
Yeah.
He's all like, oh, you mean I don't need to get it into all this gore makeup or whatever? I'm not going to get my heart ripped out of my chest. For once, thank you. I'm not covered in honey. This is great.
The priestess hands back Tom Hardy the necklace of his girlfriend. And I only wrote this down because I think she says something that really just reinforces as a reminder that, yeah, she pretty much used him to get what she wants. She manipulated him to come to this island.
Sure did.
Yeah, so...
You must love her always. Without her, you would never have come.
What a hero. We find out that Morna was the narrator, and then we go to the end credits, which are just... an iMovie Pro credits.
Over a random scene.
Like
at the end. Tony Todd is like in the foreground.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? It was a still image, and yet it's going to be hard to describe in the podcast.
There's a little bit of movement. I know what you're saying.
There's a flame flickering in there, and it's like, why the fuck did they make this? And they're just holding on this image for the end credits. It's bonkers. All right, and that's the movie. That's Minotaur.
Oh, boy. I'm trying to find any specifics here that we didn't talk about. At one point in time, someone describes the Minotaur as bigger than any wolf. Kind of stating the obvious. It's fucking Minotaur.
Any bull is bigger than any wolf.
I had forgotten because we were talking about like the appearance of the Minotaur and how he's kind of like a skeleton colored. At one point in time, someone on the boat says that he's specifically white because he is dyed white with the bile of children. I thought that was a weird sort of thing for them to mention. I don't know. I guess maybe that's what they were trying to go for. If that's what they were going for. It failed fantastically.
I think in the mythology, the bull that was originally promised to Poseidon was white, and that's why the king liked it. Was a unique bull. All right.
Oh, it was a unique bowl.
I don't know. How many white bowls are there?
Yeah, Vina's wandering around the labyrinth, and they say, we got to go with the princess, and she says, I'd rather put my head in the snake pit than go with that witch. And it's all like,
well, then find yourself a snake pit.
You are literally in the snake pit. You are in a pit. You're currently in the pit right now.
I like that because he responds with, well, then you better go find yourself a snake pit. And she goes, I will.
I will. and then Minotaur horn through the mouth.
What choice do we have?
I would rather put my head in a snake pit. I won't follow that witch anywhere.
And go and find yourself a snake pit, Vina.
I will.
One thing that I wanted to mention, so I like to play a little game when I'm watching these movies. I count the production company logos. Now, there were only two.
There's only two.
There was only two. However, after it fades for the first two, there are 10 co-production companies.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right for us. Yeah.
That is a new record for most.
This was a Lionsgate movie. This is like an actual production company that we've heard of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'll just be honest. That altar room, throne room scene, it looked pretty good. It was the best looking set in the movie.
Yeah.
Gotta throw it a bone.
Yeah, throw it a bone. Throw it a Minotaur bone. Throw it a horn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're at that point in time where we ask, does this movie have a certain something, or did you find it to be a whole lot of nothing?
You go first. I'm still gathering my thoughts here.
I did not like this movie.
Mm.
I thought it was largely boring. I thought it was quite dull. It had some decent gore, but that gore I thought was largely let down by the cinematography and the editing because they didn't really linger on it the way that I wanted them to. There wasn't enough cool Minotaur kills.
Yep.
Everyone kind of got killed exactly the same way. You have like this great set piece where Tony Todd is the king of this hedonistic quality, and he wants to fuck his sister and do all of these other nasty, gross things, and it just wasn't nearly sexy or horny enough for me. It could have been way more exploitive for me.
Yeah.
I just thought this was kind of a whiff, kind of a bit of a stale fart of a movie. I really don't know if there's a ton to recommend. There is a totally serviceable Tony Todd performance in this.
Yeah.
I do think he could have sprinkled a little more spice on it.
Yeah.
But it's like a B+ Tony Todd
Yeah.
performance is what I'll say.
I don't really know where they were going with this movie. I don't know what the intention was for this, if they were trying to do like a horror spin on a Greek myth.
I would say that's literally what they were doing.
Without having to use like an actual Minotaur monster, it's just a big bull, without using the proper Theseus character.
I'm fairly certain you don't need to get the rights for any of that.
No, I don't think
it's
so
like
either.
the oldest story ever told.
One of them, yeah.
You don't gotta pay shit for that. There should be like 8 Minotaur movies by now, because it's a monster that people don't use enough.
I think you're absolutely right when you're saying like it's not going exploitative enough with like the sinful bull empire story where like everyone is constantly hedonistic.
It should be like a Sodom or a Gomorrah where it's like their downfall should be telegraphed.
Exactly.
Because they're doing all the bad things.
Yeah. And I'll just echo my point that I was saying earlier. I think when you have ensembles like this, I think there's a different, better avenue you can go than just like a typical gore-fest slasher monster movie. I'm not saying that this movie could have been salvaged. I do think that a premise of these many interesting characters kind of trapped in one situation with this unstoppable beast, I think they could have come together and pulled off something a little bit more memorable, a little bit more...
Yeah, definitely. I'll go to bat for what you just said. I think there is a more interesting version of this movie. And I like the general idea of what if we did a horror movie? What if we did like a monster movie?
You're trapped in a maze with a monster.
But yes, it is a monster from legend. It is a Greek myth or a Roman myth or something. Give me a Hydra movie.
Yeah.
Give me what's the thing with the 3 heads? But they're all different heads.
Cerberus? Oh, Chimera?
Chimera! Give me a Oh, yeah, give me a That's something that you see that on a DVD box cover.
Yeah.
Chimera, starring Corin Nemec. I don't know. That's the first name that was in my head. But yeah, I don't know. Switch it up a little bit. I think I'm here for new original monsters. I mean, these aren't original monsters. These are like the oldest monsters in history.
But it's a fantasy horror film.
Yeah.
So
which we really don't see that many of. And we could totally, I'd be into. So now there might be like a bit of a disconnect in terms of, like, a fantasy horror movie is never going to be scary.
No.
Because it's like, well, this is like people in olden time. I can't relate to this. I will never find myself in a labyrinth with a Minotaur.
Sure, right.
I mean, knock on wood.
Yeah,
right?
but there is the limits of what you can actually do for yourself in, like, these medieval times. You know, because you don't have the benefit of getting into a car and driving away. You don't have access to fucking semiotic weaponry to take it down.
Modern day Minotaur?
Modern day Minotaur?
That's what they gotta do. They gotta bring Minotaur, and he's in the big city. Minotaur in the big city.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, whatever, that's something.
It is something.
Hey,
yeah.
what's the biggest labyrinth of all? New York City,
New York City, baby.
He's in town, and
Town never sleeps.
He's ready to party.
Minotaur's taking a bite out of the Big Apple.
He just wants to get laid. That's what he wants. Yeah. I don't recommend Minotaur.
No.
Yeah. Sorry, Tony.
Well, we're off to a good start here with Tony Todd.
Great start. Fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks for showing up again, Rutger Hauer.
Truly, yeah. Rutger Hauer will be in your movie for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it'll be
true.
A fabulous 2 minutes.
We were commenting on this before. I just love how, like, Rutger Hauer will blindside us by just appearing in movie. Like, you turn around and, Rutger Hauer, what are you doing in this movie?
Well, he's just got those piercing blue eyes where they just stare directly into your soul.
That's fucking happened like 3 times
for
us.
One of these days, we'll spotlight Rutger Hauer and we'll talk about his career. Again, like, he is of a Tony Todd type figure where we can't talk about his entire career because he's just in so many goddamn movies. But it'll be interesting. And, well, the hard thing with Rutger Hauer is that the beginning of his career is all Dutch films.
Right.
So...
But we're not here to talk about Rutger Hauer.
We're not.
We're here to kickstart the Tony Todd Halloween Spooktacular season.
Exactly. It's the Tony Todd season, even though we're probably not going to watch another movie with him in it. I don't know. We haven't decided on what movies we're doing next. You know what? Maybe there will be another Tony Todd movie.
There you go.
We don't know. We're flying on the edge, folks.
But anyway, are you scared yet, folks?
I'm terrified.
All right, well, then Halloween's off to a good start.
Every day is a waking nightmare for me. I wake up and I'm like, oh God, existence!
Yeah.
And that's the scariest thing of all. And we thank you for sharing your existence with us, listening to this podcast. That was Minotaur, directed by Jonathan English. If you like this episode, please check us out on all of the other social media. We are on Instagram and Facebook and X.com. And yeah, you can follow us in there and you can get updates. If you're listening to us on Spotify and you haven't checked out us on YouTube, you can, Jameson is adding all of these visual images to it and everything like that. So if you want to see how the terrible bile-filled Minotaur looks, there'll be some photos up of that. If you're already on YouTube and that's how you're watching this show, you can also check us out on Spotify. We'd like to thank Joel Flynn and Luke Schuss and everyone at Podstream Studios for letting us use their equipment. And yes, the Halloween season continues. Spooky time.
Exactly.
And next time we'll keep talking. We'll keep talking and you'll keep listening because that's how this all works. And I'm Kaz.
I'm Jameson, and I'll leave you all with this. Candyman.
Wait, what are you doing?
Oh, I'm just trying to recite the name of the movie that this quote's from. Come with me and be immortal. Yeah, I mean, we practically are immortal. Well, we are going to be.
We're going to be.
There's so much of our audio available on the internet now that an AI could fucking fill in for us every once in a while.
Hey, you want to know something scary? Our content is going to outlive us.
That's true. Oh, that is scary. No.
Minotaur!
Minotaur!